Well, hi. I forgot to take my screen off. I was not on camera, but I'm on camera now. Hi, America.
You are.
Welcome to welcome to episode 105 of the other side of the ball. It is Double A and Chris here with you for the next hour and a half, talking things that is the American Sevens Football League, and it is hard to fathom, Chris, that we are in the month of October.
Yeah,
It's
about that.
insane.
Oh, thank you. About that. It is crazy. It is the fact that, any other given year we would be pretty much looking at maybe about another couple of weeks before we started our normal fall brawl instead of the winter war like we are this year. So it's a little bit different. Kind of like it.
hmm
Kind of like it. I won't lie.
and joining us with the most unique name ever. So, Mr. Hammond, what is the what is the story behind this name that you're blessing us with this evening on episode 105?
You guys don't remember the Endeavor, the mystery quarterback thing?
Oh yeah, I remember it.
Oh, was Dub around?
Yeah, Dub was. You know what, Corey? That is a good.
No, he wasn't.
I don't think he was.
That's true.
I don't think he was because that was
I
the
think-
first. Yeah, he was not
the first.
around.
That was the first fall championship. So Dub wasn't here yet.
Correct. Dub was
No.
not in. He was not with us yet, so that's why he doesn't know.
No.
So Rob was calling me Nathan Dever. Matt was calling me Nathan Dever. It was a reference to an anime. Some guys will know it. I am just getting in from practice. I wanted to just jump in real quick. Give me 3 minutes. I have to park my car, yell at my kids, and I will be right with you guys.
All right.
Well, make sure you at least kiss your wife in that process.
Yes.
I'll kiss her after. This is a hard out of 10, so that's better than the 3-on-1 podcast that usually went till like 1 a.m.
Oh damn. Yeah. True.
Okay. Well, as Mr. Endeavor will come back and join us as he's popping in to say hi. But yes, to piggyback of what you said, Chris.
Yeah.
And before we hop in, our co-host of the Muslim Dub Show and Talking Ish with myself and Chris says hello, and hello to you too, sir. And EJ Wizzle, part of the CUSN network, and of course, contributor here to Ace NFL, part of Creative Brothers Productions. Which, by the way, I'll do some plugging while I'm here. So, while we're at it, if you guys love the world of videography, photography, editing, any of that stuff, please get with Creative Brothers Productions. They will get you right. They have done some contributions for the Mizzle and Dub Show, for the All Pro Jaffos, and of course for the Ace NFL. And just to give you a little example of what they've done for the A7, take a look here. Yeah, they gave us our sign. Yes, our logo is because
Our
of
logo.
Creative Brothers
I
Productions,
thought
but-
also the music.
Yes. No, the music was Mizzle's son, my nephew, but we'll
Oh, okay.
get to that in a second. But here's what
Gotcha.
Creative Brothers did for us for the ASNFL. Take a look.
Winter is coming.
And he can make something magical happen here. And there goes the ball. It's going. It's going. You're a fan.
Battles will be won.
Hold on now.
At the 30, and he
Who's going to take victory?
and that's what championship points matter.
It's time for war.
That just gets the juices.
And
doesn't
of
it?
course, it does indeed, and I know for us when we do make our return to Matter Academy, we'll actually get to see where the ball's going to be marked at, so we won't be saying we think the ball is spotted at the 24-yard line, but we don't know. Oh, it's at the 19. Okay, so from the 19-yard, no, we'll actually know where the ball's spotted this time. We'll be back in a familiar setting. We will be in a press box overseeing the view of the field. Yes. So that'll be a good sign. But now, if you noticed during that little snippet that EJ was made for us, there is a QR code that you can scan if you want to participate in the Winter War coming up in January, which is now less than 2 months away, folks. So again, as you see on the screen, there is a QR code. So scan that, and it will take you to asnfl.com to where you can register, and they'll get all the details. No, they have not announced award winners yet, because last night was the final night to vote for the MVP, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Special Teams Player of the Year. So if you did not vote, shame on you. Hopefully when they announce the winners, hopefully we'll actually have the winners come on and give their acceptance speech and just talk about their contributions from this past season. That would be the goal, if you will. So yeah. But so whenever Corey Hammond decides to return, he had an idea of what he wanted to do for the show tonight, as he said, and I quote, hold on, because me and Chris are involved in many chats, if you will.
I had a dime for every chat I was in. I try to keep them without crossing over. But I asked about a post that Knox did a while back, and I even texted him, and he goes, "Dude, I don't remember that." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I can't find it." I had to go through. I went through 7 different areas that it could have been sent on, and couldn't find it anywhere. And so I started to question myself: did you really see it? But I know I saw it, because when I finally found it, it was exactly what I was looking for.
Because he's definitely a very high candidate for MVP. Like I said, all the people that were nominated are very deserving of it. It's just a matter of who makes the say in the final vote, which is not us, but he's definitely earning of that. For those that are listening, CJ Wozzel from CUSN said, y'all think Eric is a definite for the MVP. He's up there. And joining us from his car, who was very proud of his beloved Lions performance on Monday night against the Seahawks, and happy dad, Mr. Derek Duncan.
What's up? What's up?
And of course, the part of the question number 1: will you be attending the game Saturday against the Orange Men of Syracuse at the stadium?
I will not, unfortunately. Unfortunately/fortunately, I have my annual networking trip international coming up this weekend, where me and 20 of my best customers will be in Cabo San Lucas trying to figure out how to screw each other out of more money.
Órale! Viva Mexico!
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
So the beauty in that is I got my black skin host, who obviously has heritage that's tied to it, and Chris is actually holding down the fort and taking care of the business at home while I'm gone.
Yep. He'll be sending me texts, pictures while he's sipping on a drink on the beach, and I'll be here working.
Yes. I just won't.
Okay with that.
I will not be wearing no mariachi suit nor no sombrero. That's what I won't do.
As long as Derek doesn't send me any pictures in a thong, I'm good.
That would be Scott McCorkle that would do that before Derek.
Let me see the booty go.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cisco Duncan, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to get some tickets to something, and I'm going to send Chris a bunch of tick pics.
Which, by the way, folks, that is an app that charges no fees.
Or I'm going to find some dudes from the BIC and send a bunch of Bic pics.
Oh my, it has come full circle.
Yeah, I would share with you guys the dick pics that I sent to my wife, but that just ain't right.
Ruh-roh.
Well, as long as
the funny thing is, it's not what you're thinking. So get your mind out the gutter.
I ain't got enough bandwidth to receive something that big.
It's not the diddler, is it?
No.
Is it
Oh
Chris?
my God! Where is Mizzle? I don't know if he's sending you guys the same shit he's sending me, but oh my God!
Oh, he is. No, he
Oh, yeah.
is. He is. I have told him I have told him so many times that I hate you, I can't stand you. 'Cause I'm just like, where are you getting these from? And Huss has returned, Mr. Corey Hammond.
And some
in
of
the
them,
Huss.
some of them I'm opening up and reading while I'm waiting for somebody at one of our customers, and they come down to talk to me, and I'm sitting there busting up laughing. What are you laughing about? Nothing. Don't worry about it. I'll share it with you later.
It has replaced the Jordan crying meme as the meme of all memes, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I don't know about that. This is a flash in the pan over the course of a week. Jordan's been going on for like 5-6 years. You can't just take the title like that.
Well, I mean,
if we're gonna go there,
well, he's trying to make a case.
I think the two ladies from Housewives with the cat pointing at each other and yelling might have beat the Jordan meme out for a while.
Yeah, I would
That
say so.
Oh Lord,
That cat meme
That
was
probably
top
the
notch.
best one. But I keep saying the same thing when it comes to P. Diddy, and that is that I hope his ass is ready for what's coming. Pun
That's
intended.
disgusting. That is disgusting. I just threw up in my mouth.
Do you guys?
oh,
You guys wanna
Kingfish.
take-
Kingfish Lips will be joining him.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you guys want to take this one without me? I mean, you guys have gone in a different direction than I might have went, which would be the postseason top 10 of the A7FL. If you guys want to go into the legal news of the week,
Corey throwing us a fucking life preserver, like save the show. You guys are fucking ridiculous.
Here's a lifeline, guys. I suggest you grab it.
listen, I think our Sean
Corey
Combs
Hammond.
coverage is probably out of our depth a little bit. None of us are either A, famous, B, have been to air quotes a freak off, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn. If you guys have been to freak offs, good for you. So listen, Johnson & Johnson is now actually actively looking for people to step in the place of Diddy. So maybe Derek Duncan might have to put in his own order of baby lotion.
Baby oil, and it would be
oil specifically.
$1,000 a month. $1,000 a month.
I'm a cocoa butter guy. I'm good.
I'm sure so was.
But Corey, there is a question. Corey,
And
there
Dub
is
half
a
the
question
time.
for you, and it comes from. The question comes from CUSN, and the question is, Corey, have you seen that clip I've posted of your take from the last podcast? First off, EJ, where can we see that clip at? And if you don't mind posting it in the chat so people can go take a look at the clip.
You could even take the clip,
apparently-
click on it, and then share the video, Dub.
So let me just say, I probably
the
agree
way
with
my,
myself, if that's the question. I don't know what the clip is, but I'm going to say that I agree with myself. Although I would say about 5% of the time, like I misspoke, right? Agree with me when I'm wrong. Maybe I disagree with myself. I don't know.
Well, Corey, I will go on record and say more than 5% of the time you say shit that you don't even believe just to get a rise. So I don't know that maybe you will agree with yourself.
I will embellish things that I do believe to get a rise.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm gonna go
necessarily.
that number is higher than 5. I'll put the over under at like 13.
All right. Nice
Well,
even
I
number there.
do have a question.
Go an even number and say 15.
I do.
No, I Corey's prime, so I had to give him 13.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'm
so he
going to
says,
the
I
Nevada
believe
group
I
right
put
now.
it in the players group. Okay, so there we go. Which,
Okay,
by the
hold
way,
on.
now
not
that
helpful for the
ballots-
show, but we appreciate you, EJ.
I'm gonna look it up and see what's up.
Now that the ballots have officially closed, do we know when the announcement of the award winners will take place? Has there been a date set for that?
No, so the process is now that the votes are all been in. Remember, those are just weighted. That's not the final answer. It will tally those numbers and then come to a final decision as to who the award winners actually are. So there will be some time there. I've not seen anything in our owners chat as to anything's going to happen there. I'm not even sure they're going to involve us, but I'm sure we're going to be made aware of how it's being done, and that hasn't been done yet.
And by the way, I did
Alrighty
see
then.
this. I just saw the post. I did see this post. I like the form in which it is. First of all, it's that famous picture of Munchie looking at my guy Chick, Shout outs to Amir Morris, A7FL All-Decade Performer. And I actually was just on the phone with him this past week, and we actually just really quickly talk about that. He's like, yeah, he got me on that one. But yeah, I like where the show has been. I like where it's headed, and I like that people are clipping it and put it in there. So, listen, regardless of what anybody says, I think we all know how, or not how. I think all of us know that Munchie affects the game all the time, whether he's in at all of the positions we talk about, whether it's on the defensive side of the ball, whether he's playing D line, and especially when he's blocking. I do like that. This is a nuanced take that I sometimes have. You know, it seems simple, but a lot of guys, just to be clear, a lot of guys that play wide receiver want to show how great they are by running double moves. Let's be honest, double moves. If you have as much time in the pocket as Scott Hamilton does, about 14 minutes, yeah, a double move, a triple move, a quadruple move is going to be wide open. When you have 1.7 seconds, like I did for both the Boston Omegas and the East Orange Renegades in my past 2 seasons, it would be helpful if on those 3-step routes guys could get open. And I think that's the difference that I see from Munchie than other guys. He doesn't need all 14 minutes of Scott Hamilton sitting in the pocket, getting a tan, rolling up his sleeve so it's not a farmer's tan, to get open. He can get open immediately, and even if there is pressure, and there was pressure at times against BIC, he's an open receiver whenever he runs a route, and that's one of the things, a long list of things that sets him apart, even from guys on his own team. No disrespect to my guy Zay Daniels and David Clark, who's also an awesome wide receiver.
Dive into that a little bit, Corey. You're absolutely right in that, in the games where he had where Scooter had the most pressure, right? When he's going against Sick, when he's in the 2 championship games, Munchie was his primary receiver throughout the day. Yes, he had some great throws to Davik, to Smooth, that were also big plays, but when he needed it, it was Munchie. When he needs it, it's always Munchie.
Well, you could tell who a quarterback security blanket is on 3rd and 4th down and in the last 2 minutes of a half, right? So when you need the play and you go to your go-to guy, it's pretty clear who your first and second read usually are in those moments. And the one thing that you can't take away from David Clark is his tangibles. The one thing, when you put those guys in direct comparison, when they're standing next to each other, in a Madden draft, you take the guy who has the higher speed number and who has the taller height on paper. In a game, though, there's nobody that's as wide open as Munchie is on every route, and he has the intangibles of being able to block 3 guys on a speed option to his side in a 7-man football game. So, I think the MVP conversation will be interesting, especially the fan vote. It'll be interesting how that fan vote equates to what the league insiders, air quotes, will decide who gets that award. But I think last year was kind of what I wanted the template to be for MVP in this league, which was, it's not, best player, best team. It's who was, by the definition of the acronym MVP, most valuable player, who was the most valuable person on a roster, and without him, the whole thing changes behind him. I would argue that as great as Munchie is as a player, the Insomniacs are a deep enough team that if he, for whatever reason, doesn't show up, they're still a much more competitive team than some other teams without that guy in that spot. But I don't think he's the wrong vote, especially in the list of names that we were given, because like I said, another Vegas guy, my MVP, the guy that if you take him off the team, they're not an undefeated regular season team, and they're clearly not even, maybe in my opinion, the second best team in the Vegas division. You take out Jeremy Geary from the Sickwit roster and put in like an average A7FL quarterback. Let's say,
their backup is Lavish T. And
this year their backup is Lavish T. Last year,
we're talking about this year, right?
Yeah, last year they had a pretty damn good quarterback as their backup. So this year, take out Jeremy Geary, put in Lavish T. Not that they're not going to be able to make a couple plays happen, but I guarantee Darren Palmer doesn't have 11 targets and 9 catches. That's for sure. And no disrespect to my guy Lavis. I wore his shirt yesterday. Today I'm wearing the y'all
No,
know.
last week. You didn't wear it yesterday. You wore it last Wednesday.
I said yesterday. Yeah, I meant last week. I may have
Yeah,
worn
I'm
it
just
yesterday.
making
No one
sure.
can confirm
For
it.
Yeah, you might
listeners, you're not last Wednesday.
But listen, we got sponsors.
But I mean,
Go to the website, buy some merch. Anyway,
so there's a couple of guys that I would agree with on that sentiment, and I think that when you look at some of the other teams, and I'll point to a few, and one of them being the Nightcrawlers. When you take Bagway away from that team, are they really as good of a team without him?
well, he wasn't
Okay,
on their
we'll go
team, so
away.
are we going to give him credit?
What's that?
He wasn't on their team when they needed him. Are we going to give him credit, or?
My point is that
Yeah.
you saw what the difference they were without him on their squad, and that's kind of my point. Like you said, if you remove a player from a squad, does that team really look the same? And they didn't. So that's what
What's
I'm
funny
saying.
is
That's
what's
another
funny
that's
is
another player
by-
in my mind.
By that metric, I think most of us who watch the A7FL enough would say that answer is David Tender, and that but he was disqualified by Corey
Him too.
because he missed a certain amount of games or certain time during games.
Well, I gave him a hard time for the one game that he missed, the regular season game against BIC, which almost proved his worth, right? But I'll also say this about David Tender. Did he mean more to the Animals than Huff did the previous year? The defending MVP, right? Who won more games with the Animals than David Tender did. And even though he didn't have the electric and awe-inspiring offensive performances, especially in the highlights, I don't know. That's an interesting thing because
could you make an argument
you-
for Huff as well, for the U,
Well, you said it
and
yourself.
what he
from
did,
last year, Corey,
what he
the
did
reason
this
that
year,
Huff
and what
got-
he did without.
So you
Yeah,
said
Huff played
last year,
both ways.
Corey, the reason Huff got
Yeah.
put over the hump was because he played defense and was their best player on defense too.
And
So-
they went from 0 for to what they were, right? I think it's interesting because
Playoff team.
David Tender took the Animals from where Huff had them to basically almost exactly where Huff had them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's interesting that it's like, hey, if Huff's the MVP and you equate the team's output. So I think it'll be interesting where the fan vote lines up because I think there are a couple of different pockets of fans that are big voting blocks. And shout out to those who vote. We got in about a month. There's other votes. So especially if you're in Nevada, get out and vote. Hopefully for a good future and not a disgusting past. But it's your choice. I'm not going to influence you one way or the other. Derek's over there laughing. He was going to vote for Jill Stein, basically.
I still might.
Yeah, vote for Jill Stein. That'll be good. RFK, Jill Stein, you might as well vote for Dub. I mean, it's the same approximate effect that it'll have on the election. Let's not get into that, though. Let's not.
Definitely.
I am not.
Choice.
I am not a dirty politician. That's what I'm not. That's what I'm not, a dirty politician.
Well, I'll say this: if they vote for you, you're going to get the same electoral votes as the other person that other people could vote for if it's not the two main ones. But I digress. So, Listen, I don't know about you guys, but after a fun conversation of awards, football's not about individual awards. Just ask the guys in the Insomniacs. It's about the team. It's about if it's the Insomniacs, 40, or if it's the Gold, 13, all of the guys on the sideline and how that group of guys equate to success on the field. So instead of talking about just this one guy or just this other guy and how he affects his team, or how 3 guys from the Indianapolis Octane are on almost every fucking list for player awards, by the way. Shout outs to the Octane. And I don't know, do they only have 3 guys on their roster? Let's talk about some teams. And let's talk about the top teams. And if we really get into it, let's give it a top 10. I'm going to make Matt and Rob jealous. But fuck them. They're nowhere to be found. So let's go.
Okay, so if we're starting off 1-2, it has
No. We know the one. That's the easy thing. Let's talk about an in
We
general.
know the 2 as well.
Well, listen, I did show prep, so I have 10. Okay.
No, but I'm saying we know who number 1 is. We know who number 2 is.
Can
So
we be
number
clear
one
what we're
team
talking
in
about?
the
We're talking about a top
A7FL.
10 team across the country, a preseason
Yeah,
top
across
10
the
type
country.
deal?
Not postseason, final, official, no argument. Give
Well,
us
there's
your
gonna be
opinion in the
argument.
comments. No, of course there won't be. Everybody agrees with everything I say, especially from the Vegas division.
No, no.
No disagreements. Tell us in the comments how fervently you do agree. A7FL, other side of the ball, postseason top 10.
Corey's driving me to drink.
I like it. So postseason
As
top
long
10.
as you don't drink and
Corey,
drive.
What's the
sitting
framework based on their last product they put on the field or their body of work for the season?
I think that's kind of like the MVP talk. Whatever you guys feel would be how we decide that. I put together my top 10, and I think it's hard to argue with because when you really break it down, obviously the number 1 team, there's no argument. It's the championship team that won the championship by the blowout that they did by the 1 point and on one of the last plays of the game because it was so much of a dominant performance from the Vegas division that it's unquestioned how much better they are than every other team in the league. And then I think
thick today.
I made the same exact, almost verbatim sentence last week, and I will continue.
You
to
did,
because
and it's hilarious.
I don't mind.
It's listen. That's what I hear from how dominant the game was. And if you look back at it, it's a win's a win. I'm not taking nothing away, and they're still number 1 team. So, and then I would say number 2 team based on that performance, and even though they got blown out by the 1 point and they weren't winning the entire game until then, BIC to me has to be the number 2.
Yeah.
Because if we respect the Insomniacs,
Shouldn't we be doing this from 10 up though?
that's what I said. That's what I said, and then you guys said 1 and 2. So
no, we said 1 and 2. We already know who they are. So
I'm still looking for a answer to my original question for you, Corey. Is this a snapshot of the last time we saw them or their body of work for the season for your list?
It's a body of work because if you say and you look at the Animals and they're 0-2 in the playoffs and you knock them out because their final record has extra 2 losses because they got another opportunity to lose again in the playoffs. I don't think that's fair. I think it would be body of work, but also I think the top 10 should be the eye test of who we think is better, right? Rob always, and shout out to Rob, that's my guy, throwing him under the bus even though he can't really respond yet. But maybe he'll find a way into the comments or something. He sometimes does that as trolly as he can get. But he always wanted to fall behind. Oh, look at the stats. Look at the point spread. No, that's not. No, even if the Force were 3-0 at the beginning of the season and they won every game by 50 points and they played the Pit Bosses Gold and the Hunters, they're not a better team than Sickwit. And this is not the way that it went. I'm just saying hypothetically. The Force, in my opinion, wouldn't necessarily be put above Sickwit, who lost to the Insomniacs by 1 point and won against OTT and the Kryptonite by 80, right?
So then, knowing that it's the body of work and everything that they've done throughout the season, who do you have at number 10?
Who do I have at number 10?
Yeah, who do you have?
My top 10 starts at number 10.
Yep.
10.
The Vegas Force.
Vegas Force. Well,
because if you look around the league and look for that other team that's not in like the top 2 or top 3 in their division, Northeast is a little different. Could we make the argument that one of the other Ohio teams that's not necessarily the top 2, so for instance, the Explorers or the Octane or the Volcanoes or the Crush, could we make the case for them to be given a postseason ranking? I don't think so. Could we
make the argument that they would be able, and I'm asking the question, don't get me wrong, this isn't me being facetious with it. Could we make the argument too that any of those teams would be able to beat your number 10 team?
Yeah, and that's really what I'm saying is eye test, are they better?
Exactly.
Right? I don't think and no disrespect, copious amounts of disrespect. Every other team that's not already considered on this list, I don't think that they really have a chance against the Force. The Force, since they've entered the league, they've had a steady enough defense because they have a coach and they have a plan. And whether it's one quarterback or the other, they have enough plays on the offensive side of ball, and we talked about Jaden Webb already, that they can score enough for their defense to play sound, solid defense. Obviously not as good as Sick or Insomniacs yet.
But they could still take chances on defense because they have a good enough offense.
Well, they're going to score in the range of 25 to 30 against some of the middling teams that would compete with them for the 10th.
Agreed.
And they're going to probably hold a lot of those teams under 20, right? And so just to break it down, is there any other team in Vegas that's better than the Force other than Sickwit and the Insomniacs?
No.
Is there any team that's other than the top two teams? And I don't want to do the whole top 10 in the breakdown on the Force. Any of the other two top teams in Ohio that could compete with the Force out of that division? I don't think so.
You say other than the top teams or including the top two teams?
No, other than those top two teams, which I'm not going to name them because they're later on this list likely. And then if you look at Florida, no disrespect to Florida, Ghosts, Orange, A-Team, no, I don't see it. So Force, to me, they're there solidly because, let's be clear, Snow Tribe is ass. East Orange Renegades, ass. Buzz, ass, right? And so even though the Northeast does have sometimes that other competitive team, not this year. So to me, Force are really easily 10. They could be higher maybe, but that's who I had.
That was going to be my argument once you said the other Ohio teams were on the list. So, but we can continue.
Yeah.
So for me,
that's
the
what
10 spot,
the argument can be made.
So for me, the 10 spot, I would put the Vegas Force there. And, we could go back and forth. I think that we saw a lot from those other teams. Maybe we wanted to see more from one of those other teams, and they showed us, a little bit different more that we didn't necessarily want. But to me, I feel like at least at a minimum, and maybe you could push them higher, at least at a minimum, to me, the Force are number 10.
Okay, so who you got number 9?
Now, we saw this team. Number 9. We saw this team on Games of the Week in a situation where I think that they were kind of a surprise to a lot of people. Now, this was in a losing effort, but it wasn't the only time that we've seen this team in the history of them being in the league. And every single time we see them, they play tough. And this year they added a playmaker at wide receiver and a quarterback that we talked about in the MVP and Offensive Player of the Year conversation that I think put them over the top, in essence, over, in my opinion, the Force that when you look at their body of work, this team only lost 2 games to one team, and then they lost to in the playoffs to the eventual team they lost to. And I think their body of work and their performance head-to-head against a team that was a little bit higher ranked than the Force, they impressed me a little bit. Now, could they maybe slide down to 10? I don't know. But the Covington Heist at number 9, to me,
I was wondering if you were going to put them at number 9 because I would agree with that. Now, I agree with everything you just said, too. Is it possible that we could actually flip a Heist and and the Force? I think we could, but I'm not going to argue with you. I think that those are a solid number 10 and a solid number 9.
And
I'm in the same camp. I would say an argument could be made for Force to be above the Heist, but I don't know how strong. That's not a hill I'm willing to die on, but you could definitely make the argument.
And when we look at the quarterbacks, similar quarterback styles, and we look at Amatrus Hall and we look at Jaden Webb, kind of the same type of playmaker-y kind of guy, for me, what sets the Covington Heist apart, I think, is the physicality and kind of that blue-collar, it's almost cliche, but that Ohio version of football, especially in the A7FL, that I think translates. And look, you could say what you want about the postseason Patterson U. The one thing that they are not, even if they are a little bit shorthanded, which they were, to be completely fair to the Heist. I don't think the U took them seriously, especially early in that game. But you still got to show up and play ball, and they still had A7FL all-decade guys, whether that means anything or you guys are ancient and been around long enough before this went national. I was impressed by the Heist. I was impressed from the top to bottom of their roster. And to come in where they were already eliminated from the playoffs, were said, hey, here's this opportunity to go against the team. You're probably going to drive out there and lose. It's not that big of a deal. Everybody expected them to get blown out. And for them to lose, I think the final score was like 28-14.
It's not a bad score.
They deserve a lot of credit because a lot of teams in that position.
Let's put a pin in that because I don't think we listed that right, or maybe I didn't understand you. They declined to take the second game. They played the game that they were supposed to play.
All right, so I'm messing it up. But the point is that when we saw them, my bad if I misinformed there.
No, I just want to be clear. So they deserved to be in that spot, made the trip to take on the
they were supposed to take the animal spot against BIC. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Correct.
That's
correct. So they were the first choice to take on BIC. They declined in solidarity for their division. Whatever you think about that, I'm not going to comment, but they declined in solidarity for their division. But the game that they were supposed to play, they showed up and showed out to the point where the Vegas players and fans were like, the Northeast ain't that great.
Well, and they weren't, because in the championship game, BIC got blown out so badly that you got guys reconsidering if they're going to play next year because they lost by, the staggering blowout of the 1 point, and they weren't, they weren't in control of that game.
Yeah, Dub is
right. All right, so 32-12 sounds a lot worse. I think there was a garbage time touchdown.
You know what, though? 32-12 to me is still not, when you're talking about the Covington Heist going against, you said the U?
Yeah.
Is who they played. I'm sorry, but I would consider that not a bad score. Considering
and
that,
I think the game.
I think it was at the half, though.
That's the key.
It was even at the half.
I think that's the key.
Everyone was like, "Going, what the hell's going on here?"
Yeah. Yep.
So shout outs to the Heist, and look, when we do the top 10, it's funny because you think, oh, there's so many things to talk about, but then when you really break it down, it really comes down to these teams that were kind of in the same conversation. So
who do you have at number 8?
Number 8. Now 8 is where I think it could get dicey and change up a lot. For me, it's a team that ended the full season, including the playoffs, with a much lower than 500 record because of the circumstances. But to me, the Silk City Animals, just based on eye test, they were the 8th best team in the entire league. And now let me give you the reasons why.
Okay.
They're not higher on this list.
Oh, yes, they are.
No, they're not. Their defense led up an average of 35 points per game.
It's not how you win, it's that you win.
And their record on the season was 3-6.
Yeah, but what they showed against BIC tells me they are way better than 8 on this list, especially
their offense. Their offense is better than 8 on this list.
Yes.
Their defense in that game where they where they scored 68. They were back-to-back losses where their offense scored over 55, and they lost those games.
Who else above them is scoring 68 against the BIC?
The Watchmen, which beat them the week before because they scored that many points against them.
They scored how many?
No, against BIC? I don't know.
Yeah.
But David Tender being special.
How many? Hold on. It's not just based on one game.
How many did who score?
Of the overall. Right? That's Corey. I'm asking.
Who scored how much?
It's based on the overall. It wasn't based on.
What was the score? 80-68.
Something like that.
BIC Animals game.
BIC and the Animals, yes.
80-68.
80-68 was the final score.
Okay, and when you're able to score 80, your defense is not
playing.
No,
They're
but my question
the
is
same
who
type
else-
of intensity that they played against the Insomniacs in the championship game. So
But my question is, who else is scoring 68 on BIC?
I don't know, not the Insomniacs.
Not anybody.
Okay, who is winning a game allowing 80 points against BIC?
No one.
The team that scores 96.
Yeah, sick with it maybe, but they're
That
not
was
playing
92.
OTT.
That was 92.
They're not playing OTT.
I don't
True.
know, man. I have a tough time after the body of work that I saw allowing a team like the Chaos to be above what I saw out of Silk City. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe.
Well, I mean,
Okay,
maybe in
but-
one game, but we're talking about over the season.
Well, you're right, but that one game was the culmination of them getting their shit together throughout the entire season and understanding the league after a bunch of guys came together and putting their best product on the field for the very last game of the season. That's the way that this league goes. Everyone spends, of the top teams, spends this regular season getting their shit together. Hopefully they get a bunch of wins in the process. And
No,
then
and
your
and I
best
agree.
product comes at the very end,
So-
end of the season.
Their
I agree,
offense
but
is top
we
3 in the
said,
league.
like we said to preface this, we said, you know, are we talking one game, the playoffs, or the whole breadth of the season? And what Corey said was he took a look at it as a whole breadth of the season. So I can
Yep.
understand where number 8 makes sense for them because you're looking at the whole season, not just the playoffs.
And
And
listen,
Yeah, I mean, when you frame it like that, I'll give him number 8 gladly. If you frame it like that, 3 and 6, they don't belong on the list, though. So
Yeah.
well,
so there's going to be some give and
there's a-
take.
if they're both those things, then I'm good with it, right?
there's a middle ground, and when you take the 2 losses to teams that are above them on this list, and they showed a reasonable performance in both of those games. They had the
Right.
chance to win those games if they can make plays on defense. But as offensive and offensive, but as offensive as I can be,
Yeah.
you can't look at those defensive points allowed numbers in a playoff game. Just look beneath my chin here. Okay?
Yeah, you're right. My
71 and 80? You're
They're-
not being sick with it. You're not beating.
I don't know that there are
Insomniacs.
7 teams. I don't know that there are 7 teams above them that could score that number. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when we get the list out here, I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely fucking right.
Well, and here's the thing that really on this list that really screws the whole thing up, because number 7,
Yep. Let's hear number 7.
Nightcrawlers.
7.
Who deserve to be way higher?
If their guys cared enough about our league and their chances, and instead of having an excuse the day of the game why they couldn't find a plane ride on a Sunday to get there on time,
Their
that they
flight
actually
was on- their flight was on a
prioritize-
Saturday. Their
no,
flight was
they
on a
had a
Saturday.
morning flight on Sunday that
No, they
got
did not.
postponed. That's what I heard.
No. Well, you heard incorrectly. Their
Okay.
flight was on Saturday and got pushed from 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock that Saturday, all the way up till Sunday morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock a.m., finally getting canceled.
All right. Then how did the rest of those guys get there then?
They lived in the area, or they were there earlier. No, DRC lived in the area. There were other guys who also went up there Thursday, Friday, and made a weekend out of the deal, and those are the guys that played the game. They actually, I think they pulled a couple guys off of other teams and suited them up because the league allowed it as well, if I'm not mistaken.
From what I saw, the guys that were making the plays on the field were technically on the roster Nightcrawlers, and there were obviously the guys that were missing. And look, shit happens. It's part of life that shit happens, and figure it out. I don't think the Nightcrawlers went into that game and were looking for some kind of, participation trophy. They went out there, they tried to win, they failed. But my thing is that regardless of the how reasonable the excuse is, if the Insomniacs got screwed out of having their best players at the championship game, the result's the result. Now, we could talk about that Mark Bagway and Logo Davis and even other guys like, up and down that roster that weren't there, who are great players, if they were there, what it would be like. But I'll say this, even in the regular season, we're talking about Deontay Henderson playing quarterback because those guys don't make an effort to be 100% all in, to use a Vegas term, I think that you guys are familiar with, in this league and in that championship run. Because if you're telling me that the Insomniacs lost in 2023, which they obviously didn't, and they had the ability to have a playoff run in which they won, don't you think hell or high water they're getting somehow to New Jersey? Now, look, it is what it is, and
Well,
I'm not gonna throw it all at the
keep in
feet
mind-
of that. Go
But
ahead.
hold on, Corey. Keep in mind that this also happened during a time when we're having issues. Let's face it. I mean, Derek knows I sat in an airport for 5.5 hours because of some technical issues that were going on in the country at the time. And this ain't too far removed from what he's talking about. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. And maybe if they would have made their reservations to come up on Friday, it would have been a different story. But bottom line is the guys missed the game because their flights got canceled, and can't do a whole lot about that. So,
and when we're doing the top 10 list of what these teams were, we can't say what they could have been.
no,
right?
and I agree. I agree.
Yeah, but I mean,
So-
okay, so hang on a second. We can't look at the animals and go, you were 3-6, didn't show up for 6 games of the season, and your last game with body of work, you looked amazing, so you deserve to be at number 8. And then look at the Nightcrawlers, who won every game leading up to the season, and then from a technicality wasn't able to perform in the last game and dropped them from where they likely deserve to be, which is number 2 or 3, down all the way down to 7. I'm sorry, bro. I'm not buying it. Like, you can't have the argument of Silk City and not apply it to the Nightcrawlers and not feel dirty.
Well,
Well,
before
you guys are basing the Nightcrawlers on the 2023 that you saw them in the
hold on.
championship when they wanted to show
before,
up.
Before we go there, I want to hear the teams that you have above the Nightcrawlers before I pass judgment, because I don't think the Nightcrawlers deserve the number 2 seed. I will say that because in my eyes, it's the Champions is number 1, and I'm not saying names. Champion is number 1, runner up is number 2. Period. Then we could talk about 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. But before I pass judgment, I want to hear the teams that you have over the Nightcrawlers.
And I
And
can't
that's
wait
fair.
to listen back because I got a jam. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been fun. I'll catch you on the other side of the ball.
Sounds good.
Definite. So who do you have? My question mark is, who do you have at number 6?
Well, if you think just not showing up because of flight problems throws a kink into the conversation,
Yeah.
then guess who's next?
Who's next?
Number 6.
Number 6.
So
6.
the number 6 team is the only team on this list other than the Insomniacs that did not officially lose a game last year.
Oh, okay. Had to think about that for a second.
Right? The
Yep.
real Sin City, the Sin City Chaos, and no
Real
disrespect, we
City.
know it's
Man, you know
we
what?
it's
Take
the
that back. Take that shit back before we even move on with that real Sin City bullshit. Take that shit
I don't
back.
know. I just argued my point, but anyway, the
So
Cincinnati Chaos.
let's just say Chaos. They're at number 6.
I put the Chaos at number 6.
Okay.
They didn't
so-
lose a game in
No,
all
but
honesty
hold on. Let me
in the
ask.
regular season. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, and this is a fair question. Why would you put Chaos over the Nightcrawlers? Even if you were to say, because we know Chaos didn't go anywhere in the playoffs either. But why would you put Chaos over the Nightcrawlers? That's my only question. Why do they deserve to be over the Nightcrawlers?
All right, so you can call this whatever you want. You can call it bias. You can call it unfair.
No. I want to call it what it is.
No.
I'm curious.
This is the reason, okay?
Yeah.
Because we talked about it last year with BIC, the 2023 BIC that did not even make the Northeast Championship.
Okay.
The list of names on paper can only take you so far. And for
Agreed.
instance, Mark Bagway, Logo Davis, yada yada for the Nightcrawlers. If you're just a list on a name,
You mean just a name on a list?
Yeah, you're just a name on a list. My bad. If you're just a name on a list and you're not going to actually be available, whatever the reason is, I think that's A, disrespectful to our league, and B, disrespectful to all of the teams that do, for whatever it takes, show up and show out on opportunities where they can play, especially in games of the week.
Let me play a little devil's advocate here for a second. Say it this way. I get what you're saying. 100% get what you're saying. But are you truly feeling that if the Nightcrawlers, and that this is an honest question, if the Nightcrawlers were to go up against Chaos, you're telling me that the Nightcrawlers would lose?
If they brought the same
if they were at full strength and Chaos was at full strength, you're telling me that they would lose?
How many games were the Nightcrawlers at full strength this year that we can confirm?
Doesn't matter. I'm asking you for this purpose, for what we're talking about, the top 10. Are you telling me, and this, remember I said at the beginning of this, I said there's going to be arguments made. We're going to have arguments about where teams land. So what I'm saying is, you're telling me that when you were taking a breakdown of this, because both teams were undefeated until they got to the playoffs, one couldn't finish and one lost. We understand that. But what I'm saying is, if you were telling me they're going head to head, Chaos would beat Nightcrawlers at full strength.
Let me frame it this way. The 2023
That's not the question.
Nightcrawlers.
That's not the question.
Yeah,
if they were both at full strength this season, not 2023, this season, they're both at full strength and they were playing each other in the playoffs, you're telling me that the Nightcrawlers would lose to Chaos?
I honestly don't think that's a take that I would feel comfortable making. Okay. But at the same time, what we have to go with is what we get. And when the U lose Huff, right? But when the U lose, go ahead.
Hold on. We're not talking about the U. We're talking about the Nightcrawlers. We're talking about Chaos.
Right.
We're talking about two teams that bowed out in the first round, whether we wanted them to or not. And let's be honest. I didn't want Chaos to bow out. I wanted to see where they would go against the Watchmen. I would have loved to have seen what the Nightcrawlers could have done against the U at full strength.
Yes,
we would have seen some really good football in those situations. But what I'm getting at is, on your top 10, what I have to look at, and what you talked about, is body of work. So what I've got to look at is full strength teams. Damn, whatever happened, Chaos was undefeated. The Nightcrawlers were undefeated. And when you look at those two teams at full strength, I'm sorry, but this is where the disagreement will happen. I have to put Chaos below the Nightcrawlers. I don't think a full strength Chaos could beat the Nightcrawlers at full strength.
I don't think, honestly, the Nightcrawlers wanted the A7FL Championship trophy enough for us to take them seriously as both a division, first of all, Florida, and second of all, as a team, because you can tell by the attendance of those games by their own players that Mark Bagway and Logo Davis, as great as they are, they have other priorities in other opportunities to play football. And to me, that is why I look at it. And I'm not saying I even disagree with your premise.
Okay.
But the fact is that when we were looking at the playoff races, that Nightcrawlers U game, U at full strength, Nightcrawlers at full strength,
that would have been a hell of a game.
That's the thing of beauty.
That would have been a hell of a game.
We were robbed.
And who robbed us?
That's what I'm saying.
The
when
weather?
it comes down to your top 10, and I can't go back on this enough. When we started this, I even said before it, there's going to be arguments made, and I'm not arguing with you specifically. What I'm saying is, when we start to look at the body of work, which I have to look at, and I have to look at it over the past 2 years, because let's face it.
No, not 2 years. That's not fair, because we're doing this just this year.
Hear me out.
I'll hear you out.
I have to look at the body of work over the past 2 years, because both of them were playoff teams in the past 2 years. Now, I'm throwing out 2023 because we know what happened in that season. But at the same time, when I look at it for 2024, both teams bowed out in the first round, whether we wanted them to or not. One because of fighting, and one because of missed players. We understand that. So all I'm saying is, go ahead with your top 10, and I get what you're saying. All I'm saying is I would have to reverse those two, only on the fact of, and I'm disagreeing with Derek, because I can't look at 2023 and automatically give the Nightcrawlers a number 3 seed or a number 4 seed just because they were missing players in the playoffs. I can't do it. I have to look at their body of work and say, you guys bowed out in the first round. So yes, you are number 6 or number 7, but I have to put them above the Chaos, because when I looked and broke down, if I was to look at the two teams and say, okay, if they were to go head to head loaded with all their players, no fights, no nothing, loaded, it would be the Nightcrawlers. So that's the only reason I'm saying, okay, the Nightcrawlers would be, in my mind, ahead of Chaos. Now, am I disagreeing with you for the rest of it? No, I agree with you, because we have to look at it as to where they finished. And in my eyes, I can't down the Nightcrawlers like you're doing for missing players and not taking it seriously. Okay, I get it. But if they were to go head to head, the Nightcrawlers would beat Chaos. I know that. Without a shadow of a doubt.
I don't think I disagree with you there. But what I will say is of the body of work that the Nightcrawlers put out there in the 2024 season, and Dub, figure something out with your microphone. Something's happening.
Yeah, you're just real loud with that, but that's okay. But I mean,
who did the Nightcrawlers beat in 2024?
Who did Chaos beat in 2024?
The Heist twice.
Okay, the Heist. And we already said they're number what?
They're on the list.
They're number 9.
The Heist are at 9.
Yeah. So I mean, when I look at
who is the best? Who is the best team that the Nightcrawlers beat in 2024?
Well, we don't know what could have happened. So I can't.
I can't go by ifs.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going by basically what we're saying.
We're looking at this as a non-biased situation. I can't sit here and put the Nightcrawlers below the Chaos, knowing that if they went head to head, the Nightcrawlers would beat them and probably whoop them. So I can't do it. I don't care how you slice it. When I look at that, I can't. That's like saying, okay, back in the day, we're going to put North Carolina under Florida State in basketball when North Carolina was ranked a perennial number 1. I can't do it. I don't give a shit how it ended. I don't care what went on. This is just the argument that I'm saying. I can't, in my eyes, I can't do it. I get what you're saying, and I understand it. And I'm not trying to down you for where you're positioning.
It's just an opinion.
All I'm saying is I cannot do it. I have to put Chaos below the Nightcrawlers, because if I know that if they were at full strength head to head, the Nightcrawlers would beat them. That's all I'm saying.
But Corey, and the last thing I'll say is this: if in the Alabama game this weekend, first quarter, Jaden Milroe is out of the game and they have to go with a backup, and they lose, do we rank them based on how they would have been with Jaden Milroe as their quarterback, or do we now adjust their ranking based on the loss with the team that they played on the field with this season?
The realistic side of this is one went out for fighting. One went out for loss for no players. So that's why I'm saying we can't use that as an example for an injury or for anything else.
Just go, and I'm not saying you're wrong with the way that you're framing it, because the way you're framing it is fully staffed.
Yeah.
Chaos versus Nightcrawlers, right?
You got it.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is take my example.
Which is
if why Alabama lost last weekend and Jaden Milroe got injured in the first quarter.
You're missing my point. I'm
not missing your point. You're telling me how the roster looks.
Okay, guys, one at a time. I
told Corey, I said I agree with you. But if we were to look at it head to head, fully staffed, we know that the Nightcrawlers would beat Chaos. So that was my only argument. We're continuing the argument for nothing when I'm saying I agree with what you're looking at. And I've said that from the beginning. I agree with the way you're looking at it because of the way we're talking about overall for the season. So I
Right.
agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, in my eyes, I cannot put Chaos over Nightcrawlers because I know for a fact that if they were head to head, fully staffed, Nightcrawlers would win. So I'm not disagreeing with your
No.
assessment. I'm
And
just saying
I'm not,
that I
and
can't
again,
do it.
I'm not disagreeing with your premise either.
Yeah.
But the way that I'm just framing, the way that I'm setting this up, and why I have it the way it is because
And
we could all
I
agree.
see what you're saying, and I agree with it.
Right.
So
And just my last point is we could all agree that Alabama beat Georgia, should be ranked higher, right? If
Is what it is.
And my bad, Dub. I know you're a Georgia fan. I was just using it as an example.
I know.
They almost came back.
what's
But
the
if Jaden Milroe got injured in the first quarter and Alabama had lost, we wouldn't go on based on, oh, well, Alabama's a better team.
well?
We
and-
would go on what did they
again-
actually do in the season, because we could all agree that on paper the Nightcrawlers are a really great team. They're probably maybe
we've
even
already-
better than the U. There might be
We've
better
already
than Synchrony.
established this,
Right.
and we agree. So what's your? We say that they're Chaos.
So
is
let's
number
talk
two.
about 6 and 5, because it's
Yeah.
Chaos, Watchmen for me. Now you could go opposite, you could go in a different direction. I will say this about the Chaos: they are one of their end to the season is one of the biggest disappointments that I've seen. Because now they don't exist anymore, and for whatever reason they don't. And when things like that and the way that their season ended, it's a shame, because there's a lot of reasons and a lot of people you can blame. And a lot of the things that the Chaos are saying is they're not looking to try to make themselves better. They were looking to try to point the finger at somebody else. Because I think there's a lot of reasons why what happened in Ohio happened. And a lot of those reasons start, and let's be clear, with the way one of their players decided to handle the situation. It is what it is. But the Chaos, to me, guys, even though you guys saw them up close against the Insomniacs, and they were not as good as the Insomniacs, maybe not even, didn't even belong on the same field, I think that they got a lot better year to year. And I think that you saying that they would have, for a fact that they would have lost to the Nightcrawlers is relatively close to the truth. I don't know for a fact. I know that I feel, and I know that my eyes tell me they would lose to a fully staffed Nightcrawlers team, because the Nightcrawlers are fucking amazing. I think it's a shame that we didn't see the Chaos go forward, because when that game ended, the Chaos, which is a team that in 2023 I don't think belongs on the same field as the Watchmen.
We don't know that the Watchmen or the Chaos would have beat the Watchmen to begin with. But
I know.
What I'm saying is when I look at player for player, and we start looking at the capabilities of a Nightcrawler squad, and I'm not pointing out individual players. What I'm saying is there is a difference in speed compared to Chaos. I think they would have had problems covering a lot of the Nightcrawlers wide receivers. Forget about Logo. Even some of their other receivers, they would have had a hard time covering.
Brown,
Yeah, and I think that the defenders that they have, because they're bigger guys, Bagway would have made them look very silly. And that's why I think that if I'm looking at it, the physicality and the athleticism that the Nightcrawlers bring, the Chaos was built in such a way where, and I agree with the way they were built because of their division. They're built to take on bigger blockers. They're built to take on size. And when it comes down to it, when you look at the Nightcrawlers on their offensive line, they've got decent size, but all their guys are fast as fuck. And when you look at what Bagway is able to do and how he's able to make defenders look just dumb as shit trying to chase him down, I just think that with Chaos, with the way they're built, okay, not their skill level. Don't get me wrong, it's not their skill level. The way they're built is they're built to take on bigger teams. These guys are fast and slippery. They would have had a very hard time covering them. They would have had a very hard time defending them. And I think that the Chaos offensively, when you come down to what is capable with the Nightcrawlers are very good on defense as well. They've got a lot of speed on both sides of the ball. It would have been very hard for Chaos to get around their defenders. And while I love Keno, I think he's a damn good quarterback. I also think that most of the guys off the Nightcrawlers' defensive line, and especially their linebackers, are just as fast as he is. And
Faster.
he would
They're
have had
faster.
problems.
Keno was timed at 4.8 on the 40, 4.7 maybe.
Actually, no, he was timed at 4.5. Just so you know, I was there when he was timed. I was one of the timers.
No, he wasn't even close to AJ's time. That was AJ McQuaig's time.
I don't know. AJ never ran the 40 when we were in Bullhead. I was one of the 6 guys that Luis had, and Keno ran the 40, and he ran a 4.5.
Well, one of the times I heard that was a 4.7, so maybe I missed the fast one.
Yeah. So he ran it 3 times. He ran a 4.5. He ran a 4.6, and I think he ran a 4.5 or 4.65.
All right, so
were his 3 times.
So my bad. I remember because I was up in the booth. I remember they were calling the times.
Yeah, Clay or AJ never he wasn't there. He never ran it.
All right, we'll have to check the tape there.
Well, no, I know it.
It was a while ago. So I'm obviously misspeaking on that. But let's just break down the chaos, right?
Yeah,
because I think the Nightcrawlers they're relatively easy to break down.
Well, I think what we need to do is truly break down how you broke down the Chaos and the Watchmen, because I think that those are the two that we need to break down.
Well, let's take it one at a time, because the Chaos to me, their body of work is when they played the Heist, and we saw the Heist in person against the U. And we saw who the Heist really were. And they weren't a team that's on that top level, but they're a physical defense that was able to, at times, be fast enough to stop the guys on the U. They were physical enough to stop the guys on the U. And a U team that walks through a lot of teams, including, at times, and this season, the Baltimore Watchmen, they had no answer in the first half for a lot of what the Heist were able to do. The Chaos in those games against the Heist easily controlled the line of scrimmage with their offense and defensive lines.
Well, bigger guys.
We don't talk about the one lineman I think in the league that goes unnoticed is the offensive lineman that was added this year to the Chaos, who was not there, I believe, against the Insomniacs, and that's a guy in Jonathan Clark, who in the mold of Dave Valley, Kenny Mack. And Luis Soho? What's the guy from Sick With It?
Josiah Sal.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and it's a real easy question.
Oh, Lugo is the guy I was talking about. But anyway, go ahead.
Let me ask you.
Him too.
Do you really? And very honest question. I know my answer to this right away, but do you really think that one offensive lineman, would have made the difference in a 52-15 loss, Chaos to Insomniacs 2 years ago? Do you really think one offensive lineman would have made that big of a difference?
How big of a difference in a 7-on-7 league, remember? Because it's not 11, right?
But
you only have 2 offensive
linemen. Talking about
how big of a difference did Lugo make for Sick With It?
I understand that, but did Sick With It get to the championship game? No.
How big of a difference did Dave Valley make for BIC?
But did they win the championship?
If you take Kenny Mack, off the Insomniacs, are they better than Sick With It week in, week out?
Let me finish, please. We're talking about the difference, and what I think we're talking about is 2 different things. What I'm talking about is just an offensive lineman. There are other weapons around with those teams that you're talking about that they have. What I'm talking about is an offensive lineman. When you have a team in Chaos that never got past the 50 in the first half of that game, one offensive lineman was not going to make the difference in that game.
That's not all they added, though, Chris.
But what I'm saying
is my take is I watched the film of them all season.
What you're saying is what we're talking about was, and what you said was the offensive line. So you brought up one offensive lineman. Now, granted, they added other pieces, and I agree. It would have been it's a totally different team in my eyes for the Chaos. But you brought up one offensive lineman, and what I'm saying is one offensive lineman is not going to make a difference in that game against the Insomniacs. Now, adding other pieces to that puzzle could very well be a difference maker against the Insomniacs. Just like adding pieces to the Insomniacs is a difference maker for against other teams. Now, we saw what Reeves did to replace Tone with the Insomniacs. We saw what these players, there's different players that came in and made different, they were just different. They weren't better, they weren't worse, they were just different. All I'm saying is you can't put, in my mind, I can't put an offensive lineman, just one offensive lineman on the Chaos and make that big of a difference. Now, could they make that big of a difference within their division? It is possible, because maybe you have one defensive player that is just riding roughshod over the friggin' whole division, and this dude just is his equal, and therefore they cancel each other out. That is a possibility. But all I'm saying is, when I look at the Chaos from 30,000 feet, and I looked at what their body of work was last year, they got better, yes. Now, the Heist, dude, Skylar did a damn good job with them offensively. Damn good job with them offensively. Now, were they going to be a difference maker? And do I think that Chaos beating them twice showed how good the Chaos was? Not really, because I still think that the Chaos is still not quite on the level of the 4 to 6 top teams in the league. I think that they are still
what game
a notch
are
or
you
two below.
what game this season in 2024, because that's what we're talking about, is this season.
Yeah.
What game in this season are you referencing the Chaos's performance that you watched?
I watched both games against the Heist.
And to me, the games against the Heist show that when we watch the Heist against the U, that competitive level of defense that got raised in the Heist, that competitive level of offense in the Heist, it showed me that all of the blowouts that they were able to do across the Ohio division, which in my opinion got better from top to bottom, right? The Volcanoes were a tiny bit better. They got rid of Milk. Shout outs to Jordan Davison, my guy.
Well, my question mark to that
looked bad. They had a more competent team. The Explorers
but my
an
question
expansion
mark to
team.
that, when you're talking about the Heist, is very simple, and that is, can I say that the Heist got so much better that I'm going to look at how Chaos beat them and say, oh, yeah, that shows me something. It showed me a little bit, but the Heist against the U, to me, when I watched that game, it looked more like the U was playing down to the level of the Heist. I'm sorry. That's just
and
my
that's what
opinion.
that's what this traditional Ohio sludge fest, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Big North or whatever, right? That's kind of what Ohio football is all about. And if you're able to muck it up against the team, and to be clear, I'm pretty sure Quattro Huffin was still the quarterback for the U. So we're not talking about, the U after Quattro Huffin got hurt.
If it was talking about the because I believe, and Dub, you might be able to back me up on this, but I believe it was only his second game back after injury when they played the Heist. Now, if he's back, obviously you got to say he's 100%. But all I could say is, watching that game, I did not see the U playing up to their normal potential, and I saw.
And I think a lot of the reason that is
Heist was fantastic, but at the same time, I question if you have a Huff that is not coming back off of injury. You've got a U that is in their middle of the season prime, and you've got the Heist playing that type of team even at their highest level. Is the score still 32-12? Don't know. And I'm not knocking, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the Heist and what they were able to do, but all I'm saying is, until I see these guys play other teams from the East Coast, from the West Coast, and I'm not talking about the lower tier teams, I'm talking about the upper tier teams. I want to see how they match up against those teams. It's very difficult for me to say anything else. But again, this is a top 10 that you put together, and I have yet to really disagree with you other than the fact of, okay, we're talking about body of work throughout the season, and we're talking about these situations. So right now, on your 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, up to 6. Now you got Watchmen at 6, correct?
I have Watchmen at 5.
At 5, my bad. So you
Yeah.
got Chaos at 6. Up to this point, I can't disagree with you.
Well, and I think
we can make
disagreeing
arguments,
is,
but I
is
can't
I think
disagree with it.
disagreeing with this level is where it kind of gets in the weeds. And I don't necessarily think that what we're saying is wrong in any sense. What I think is that the taste of the 2023 chaos and how they got curb stomped frames a little bit, just like how great the Nightcrawlers looked in 23, frames that level. But if we're being honest, there was only one team other than the Insomniacs that was not beaten in the regular season or the playoffs, and that's the Chaos. And the reason I think that is because I don't think it was just they just continued to just play garbage teams. I do think that they got incrementally better, not only because they improved their roster, but because they saw where the top level of competition was playing the Insomniacs. I think that the Insomniacs loss.
Didn't you guys on the 3-1 literally say, and I don't know if I'm saying this verbatim, and I don't want to. All I'm saying is you guys said at one point in time, you asked the questions after the Insomniacs, or before the Insomniacs won their first championship. The question was, but who do they play? Who did they play? Even though
that was the hypothetical knock.
Exactly.
Yeah, we
can
knew
go
they
back
played the Nightcrawlers. Yeah,
we could go back at this and say, outside of Covington Heist, who did Chaos play?
Well, and just to be fair, outside of nobody, who did the Nightcrawlers play in 2024? Which is nobody on this list.
Agreed.
So that's kind of where I think that was my separation. We could disagree, but that was my number 6. And the reason I have the number 5
no. You got Chaos at number 6,
right.
Watchmen at number 5.
And where I have the Watchmen at number 5, I think the only reason I say that is because at the moment the game kind of ended, the Chaos weren't in clear control of the game. Now, I think that, and I might misremember, I've messed up a couple of times. Call me JD Vance, just lying on national television. I think that the Watchmen were down in the game against the Chaos.
I want to say you're right.
But it was like the first drive of the game.
Wasn't it 6-0?
What's up, Ashmore? Yeah, I think it was like so early in the game that I don't even think the Watchmen had an opportunity. But
the Chaos got a safety on a holding call in the end zone. The score was 2-0 Chaos.
And by the way, as I've had that conversation with multiple times with Mr. Franklin, he will tell you that was a BS call, and he was all over the guy that called it because it was not holding. It was not a safety. And I would have to agree with him watching the game. And this is no knock to anybody.
No.
All right. This is no knock to Chaos. This is no knock to the Watchmen, but it was not holding. If you go back and look at that game, the man had his arm outstretched. There's no jersey grab. There's nothing. There was no holding call. It should have never been called a safety to begin with. Anyway.
But you know what a championship team does? Is when the refs call a penalty against them.
They overcome it.
Do they throw a temper tantrum and start like basically saying that their life is unfair, or that the district attorney is corrupt, and the Department of Justice is Biden's, right?
Let's push that to the side. Let's push that to the side. That is something that we don't want to go into the weeds with. So
I will say this though. Public service announcement. If you're saying that the ref is the reason why you're not a better team than the team across from you, then you got another whole 3.5 quarters to prove them wrong. And if you start the game off 2-0 because the refs made a bad call, the way that you deal with that, because it is a safety, you're getting the ball right back, I believe. Oh no, you're getting an opportunity. Never mind. Anyway,
you're throwing the ball off. But anyway,
yeah, I'm screwing that up.
Let's just leave it alone, and we'll say Watchmen number 5, and I can't disagree.
And Watchmen, to me, they had some quality football played. Now,
yes,
they matched up against the U pretty close, not enough early in the season. They matched up against
the U at number 4?
I do have the U at number 4.
Kind of thought
And
so.
I think the reason number 4, I think I have the U at number 4 is because based on, regardless of what happened to their roster in the playoffs, where they ended up in the playoffs, getting as far as they did. Now, did we all want to see Nightcrawler's U fully staffed?
Hell
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Raise your hand if you wanted that.
We got
Yeah.
cheated. We got cheated in my eyes.
Raise your hand if you wanted to see, even if we didn't get Nightcrawlers, that you wanted to see Quattro Huffin not get hurt on a throw off against an understaffed Nightcrawlers and be able to play at full strength against
Yes.
BIC, right?
Yes.
But I'll say this, even though if you went with the framing that you did earlier where it's Nightcrawlers fully staffed, I think you can make the case that you might even be higher at number 3. But that's not how I look at it because
hold
at
on,
the end of the day, go
So
ahead.
does that mean? Hold on. Does that mean you have? And I'm asking. I haven't seen your top 10. Does that mean that you've got Sick With It at number 3?
Oh, baby.
Move
Yes, he
the
does.
Ashmore Media and see what it says on. Where's my name?
Hold
Where'd
on.
it go?
Hold on.
All right, yeah, put the name up.
You can have banners without scrolling.
What are we
Hold on.
looking
Hi,
for
I
here?
said.
I don't see nothing else.
Vegas bias, obviously, look at my top 10.
So number 3, to me, based on their body of work, based on the opponents that they played, based on the fact that they beat the champs, they're the only team that beat the champs.
Yeah.
Sick With It's the only team that's beat the Insomniacs since the Insomniacs became this, air quotes, I don't know, what do we want to call them? Stacked team, so they're not super?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, call them what you want. If you want to call them a super team, call them a super
No,
team.
whatever. When
say
they
stacked,
became
I would
when
say
they became the Teenage Mutant Turtle Hawks or whatever, right? or the Teenage Night Ninjas or whatever they want to call these teams, right? Since they had a core
you're
of
still my ninja.
Munchie. What?
I said you're
He
still
says
my
you're still my ninja.
Yes. And
You're
I will
Noah
always be
Ninja.
Everyone's.
You're
Yo,
still
shout
my
outs
ninja.
to Noah and good luck to all of the announcers that see him tackle anybody.
For Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you called that game, what are you saying for his last name? I'm not saying a damn thing. You
I'm
could
calling
half
him
say
Noah.
it.
I'm saying
You could-
Noah.
You could half say it. You have half.
Oh, you talking about the dude with the last name of? Anyway.
Knigga? Yes, we are.
Yes.
Which is crazy work, by the way. Because
Knigga.
I know, right? Because that's his name. I know.
Knigga.
Yeah. You're allowed to say it. You're allowed to say it. We're not. You're allowed to say it fully. You don't have to say it. Dub. I am not allowed ever.
I don't use that other half. I just don't let that come out.
I don't use the N word for nothing anyway. So that's why I'll say nigga.
So let's for the last amen to that. I guess I don't know. If this is a just audio pod that you're listening to, Corey Hammond did not say that. By the way, it was Chris Fair. Don't cancel me.
I saw Corey's mouth move. By the way, I agree with them being number 3 fully. Like you said, they're the only ones to beat the champs. They're the only ones to do some of the things that they were able to. I would have, my preferable thing would have been to see a Vegas number 2 versus a East Coast number 1, East Coast number 2 versus a Vegas number 1. And then the 2 teams play for the championship. That would have been a thing of beauty. Now,
behind the scenes, that was talked about. It wasn't.
I know.
We weren't able to make it happen. I think that would have been fun. I think it would have been interesting. I also think we would have gotten less than what we wanted because Insomniacs versus a Huffless U. How's that game going? Really?
And the thing about it is, during that time period, I agree with you because Huff was still injured. So it wouldn't have been what we wanted to see. I think that what we did see with the Insomniacs versus BIC and the big blowout by 1 point, like you keep saying, so I'm gonna utilize that. I totally agree with you, but I think that what we saw between the two, and this is why I say I don't think this is any longer East versus West. And I think we need to squash that. I think what we need to start looking at is this is the A7FL. And it doesn't matter what division you're in, bring it. Plain and simple. We saw Corey's top 10 because I know who number 2 and number 1 is. I mean, it has to be BIC and then Sick with it. Or excuse me, Insomniacs. So it'll be Insomniacs number 1, BIC number 2, Sick with it number 3, so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is when we start to break this thing down and we start to see what these teams are able to do, I think the thing that we need to see is we need to see a Sick with it play an East Coast team just to kind of get a feel, right? Understand where they're at.
I think because obviously interdivisional games. Look at the NFL and those interdivisional games.
Exactly.
You can sometimes get a game between like 2 and 7,
Yeah.
like Washington Redskins versus Eagles or Cowboys, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Not Giants,
fun.
but
They're all the same.
But what I will say is in that framing, because I think that's an interesting way to put it. The number 1 team won the championship. Anybody who could ever make a claim that they're not supposed to be there is kind of talking out of their ass, which is fine, and then it just smells like shit. The 2 versus 3, let's have that hypothetical. If
that could be
neutral site,
that could be fun.
Fully staffed.
Oh yeah.
What say you guys? BIC, Sick with it. 2024 roster. Everyone's healthy, or as healthy as they were in the playoffs. How do you think that game goes? Because I think the thing that sucks for Sick with it is the fact that they had to play the Insomniacs twice, is that they did everything perfectly in the first game to win.
Correct.
Exposed the things that the Insomniacs needed to improve upon. And then the Insomniacs now had the blueprint for if we shore this stuff up, we win. That sometimes is harder to do. To beat the team the second time is sometimes harder to do than to beat the team after you lose to them, especially when the teams are that close.
Well, especially when you start to show a team's weakness, you're exploiting their weakness and they understand. Because let's not forget, we've got teams right now in the NFL. You exploit their weakness and their coaches aren't smart enough to try to fix those weaknesses. So from week to week. So I give a little bit of praise to James for changing that in the second go round when they met again, and also changing some of the weaknesses that we saw on their squad, especially when they played BIC. Because let's face it, BIC is a damn good team. I'm not going to take anything away from those guys whatsoever, and I'm not going to take anything away from your top 10, because I think that every team that you mentioned deserve to be in that top 10 list.
So yes, somewhere in this, I think these are the 10 teams, and how you arrange maybe
2 minutes,
eight
2 minutes,
5. I don't know.
Maybe you move some guys. Maybe you move a couple of teams.
8 through 5. 8 through 5. We go Animals, Nightcrawlers, Chaos, Watchmen.
Bottom line, your top 10 is your top 10, and I agree with it wholeheartely. These
1 minute.
showed their heart.
So with the last minute, this will be my take. I think that if you look at the game control for BIC, they feel like they could have, maybe should have, beat the Insomniacs. And I think, to me, even though I may be one of the biggest Sick with it fans outside of the area that is Nevada, who has a lot of important electoral votes coming up in a month. So choose wisely. BIC, to me, other than that last minute of that game, proved that at least on the scoreboard they were better than the Insomniacs. Now, I think the Insomniacs executed the game plan better, and in the clutch moment, they were much more clutch. And they won the championship because they deserved it. But I would say that if Sick with it BIC, I would say that BIC kind of would overpower Sick with it at the end of that game, similar to the way the Insomniacs were in the playoffs against Sick.
I can't argue that fact with you. All I could say is this: I would love to see that.
Me too.
Because
I think that's how we end the show. Is I'd love to see that.
I think I would love to see that. My last take is simple. I want to see some of the top tier East Coast teams play some of the top tier West Coast teams. I think that when we start to do that breakdown, we can talk about it all we want, but to see it is going to be next level. And I think that's what we need. I think that's also what this, not the division, but what A7FL needs. And I think that we also can't count out the guys in the Midwest in Cincy. We've got to let them play in this too, because they need to see where they stand.
Well, rest in peace, Chaos, because they don't exist anymore.
Exactly. So we don't have to argue about the Sin City shit anymore.
Well, real quickly, Steve, to answer your question before we get out of here, we don't know. That remains to be seen. So that is TBD, to be determined. So we just have to watch and see when they once again get back on the field. But thank you for hanging out with us on this Wednesday evening, first Wednesday of October, as we are officially full-fledged into the season of autumn. And one more time before we go, winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
And he can make something magical happen here. And there goes the ball. It's going. It's going.
You're a fan.
Battles will be won.
Hold on now.
At the 30, and he
Who's going to take victory?
And that's what championship points matter.
It's time for war.
And
Bad
one more
man
time,
right there.
and one more time from Steve Ashmore, the Sin City thing was never in debate, anyways. Well,
When you
with
spell
that-
it like that,
True.
Anyhow, special thanks to Derek Duncan for chiming in with us earlier in this podcast. Of course, special thanks as always to the Vegas biased insider Corey Hammond, and of course Chris Vera for always holding it down. For all of us here in the American Sevens Football League, we say thank you for watching episode 105, and we'll see you on the other side of the ball.
Awesome.